How did a small group of nomadic warriors from beyond the Great Wall conquer the mighty Ming dynasty, the largest and most powerful empire on Earth? It wasn't just brute force. It was a story of ambition, betrayal, and a perfect storm of chaos. Imagine this. The year is 1644, and Beijing, the heart of the Ming Empire, has fallen. But not to the Manchus, not yet. It's been captured by a rebel army led by a former postal worker. The Ming Emperor has taken his own life. The empire is leaderless and collapsing. And from the north, a disciplined Manchu army watches, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. This is the incredible story of how the Qing dynasty was born from the ashes of the Ming. It all starts with one man, Nurhaci. In the late 1500s, the lands north of China, known as Manchuria, were home to various Yurkin tribes who were constantly fighting each other. Nurhaci, a brilliant and ruthless chieftain, had a vision. He began a decades-long campaign to unite these warring tribes under his banner. He wasn't just a warrior, he was a nation builder. He created a new identity for his people, calling them the Manchus, and laid the groundwork for an empire by founding the later Jin dynasty in 1616. But how do you turn scattered nomadic warriors into a disciplined conquering army? Nurhaci's stroke of genius was the creation of the 8 banners. This wasn't just a military organization, it was a complete social system. Every Manchu family was registered under one of 8 banners, distinguished by their colored flags: yellow, white, blue, red, each with a plain and a bordered version. This system mobilized the entire population for war. Men were soldiers, but their families were also part of the banner, providing support and a sense of unity. Later, as they conquered more territory, they incorporated Mongol and surrendered Han Chinese troops into their own banners, creating a formidable multi-ethnic fighting force. This structure was the engine of the Manchu Conquest, providing a constant supply of loyal and organized troops. As the Manchus grew stronger, the Ming dynasty began to rot from within. One of the biggest signs of this decay was the defection of key Ming military commanders. One of the first and most significant was a general named Li Yongfang. When Nurhaci besieged the city of Fushun in 1618, Li Yongfang, seeing the strength of the Manchu army and the weakness of the Ming court, chose to surrender. But he didn't just give up the city. He switched his loyalty entirely. Nurhaci treated him with respect, gave him a Manchu noblewoman as a wife, and integrated him and his troops into the banner system. This set a powerful precedent. More and more Han Chinese generals, frustrated with the corruption and incompetence of the Ming court, saw a better future with the rising Manchus. These defectors were invaluable, bringing with them advanced knowledge of firearms, siege warfare, and the inner workings of the Ming military. After Nurhaci's death, his son, Hong Taiji, took the reins, and he had even grander ambitions. He understood that to rule China, you couldn't just be a tribal chieftain, you had to be an emperor. In 1636, he made a bold declaration. He renamed his dynasty from the later Jin to the Da Qing, meaning Great Pure. This was a direct challenge to the Da Ming, or Great Bright dynasty. He also declared himself emperor, adopting the Chinese imperial model. This was a brilliant political move. It signaled to the people of China, especially the disillusioned officials and generals, that the Manchus were no longer just raiders from the north. They were a legitimate alternative, a new dynasty ready to claim the mandate of heaven. While the Qing were consolidating their power, the Ming dynasty was in a death spiral. Decades of incompetent emperors, powerful eunuchs meddling in government, and crippling corruption had weakened the state. On top of that, a period of extreme cold weather, known as the Little Ice Age, led to widespread famine. Starving peasants had nothing to lose and everything to gain from rebellion. The most successful of these rebel leaders was Li Zicheng, a former postal worker who had been laid off due to government cuts. His army of desperate peasants swelled, and they marched across the country. In April 1644, Li Zicheng's forces breached the walls of Beijing. The Chongzhen Emperor, the last ruler of the Ming, fled to a hill overlooking the Forbidden City, and in despair, ended his own life. The Ming dynasty, after 276 years, had effectively collapsed. With Beijing in the hands of a rebel army, China was in chaos. The most powerful remaining Ming military force was commanded by General Wu Sangui, who guarded the Shanhai Pass, the key strategic gateway through the Great Wall. Wu Sangui was caught between a rock and a hard place. He could submit to the rebel leader Li Zicheng, who had captured his family in Beijing, or he could ask his traditional enemies, the Manchus, for help. The Manchu army, now led by the regent Prince Dorgan, was poised right on the other side of the wall. In a fateful decision that would change the course of Chinese history, Wu Sangui chose to ally with the Manchus. He opened the gates of the Great Wall. The combined forces of Wu Sangui and the Manchu banners crushed Li Zicheng's rebel army. Dorgan then marched triumphantly into Beijing, not as a helper, but as a conqueror. With Beijing secured, the Manchus needed a legitimate ruler to place on the dragon throne. Dorgan, acting as regent, brought Hong Taiji's young son, Fulin, to Beijing. In a grand ceremony in the Forbidden City in late 1644, the 6-year-old boy was officially enthroned as the Shunji Emperor. This marked the formal beginning of Qing dynasty rule over China. Dorgan, as the real power behind the throne, began the process of establishing a new government. He made a show of honoring the fallen Ming emperor and declared that the Qing were there to restore order and avenge his death, a clever piece of propaganda to win over the Chinese populace. The transition seemed swift, but the fight for China was far from over. Claiming the capital is one thing. Conquering an empire the size of China is another. While the north was relatively subdued, the south remained fiercely loyal to the Ming. Various Ming princes and loyalists established resistance movements known as the Southern Ming. For the next several decades, the Qing were locked in a series of brutal military campaigns to pacify the rest of the country. Qing armies, often led by the same defected Han Chinese generals, marched south, west, and east, systematically extinguishing every pocket of resistance. It was a long, bloody process that involved epic sieges and immense suffering, but the superior organization and military might of the Eight Banners eventually prevailed. By the 1680s, under the reign of the Kangxi Emperor, the conquest was finally complete, and the Qing dynasty had consolidated its control over the vast expanse of China. So, how did a foreign dynasty manage to rule over 1 billion people for nearly 300 years? The Qing rulers were smart. They understood they couldn't rule by force alone. They implemented a system of dual governance. While they kept the highest military positions and key government posts for Manchus to maintain control, they also adopted the entire Chinese bureaucratic system. They used the same Confucian civil service exams to recruit Han Chinese officials to run the day-to-day administration of the empire. They embraced Confucian principles of governance, sponsored scholarship, and became great patrons of Chinese art and culture. At the same time, they fiercely protected their Manchu identity. They forbade intermarriage between Manchus and Han, maintained their own language, and famously forced Han Chinese men to adopt the Manchu hairstyle, the shaved forehead and long braid known as the queue, as a symbol of submission. This blend of adaptation and domination was the key to their long-lasting rule. The Manchu Conquest ushered in the Qing dynasty, China's last imperial dynasty, which ruled from 1644 to 1912. It was a period of incredible highs and devastating lows. Under emperors like Kangxi, Yongzheng, and Qianlong, the empire experienced a long period of peace and prosperity, and its territory expanded to its greatest extent in history. But in its later years, the dynasty faced immense challenges: internal rebellion, foreign encroachment, and an inability to adapt to the modern world, which ultimately led to its collapse and the birth of modern China. The story of the Manchu Conquest is a powerful reminder of how quickly empires can fall and how new powers can rise from the ashes, reshaping the world in their image. It's a testament to strategic genius, political maneuvering, and the unpredictable currents of history. Thank you so much for watching this journey through one of the most pivotal moments in Chinese history. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the past. Let me know in the comments what piece of history you'd like to explore next. See you in the next video.